Hey guys, in this video I will be discussing what exactly is useState in React. If you are new to React or you have just started learning React, you might be hearing this term a lot, a useState. So we'll be discussing what exactly is useState and why do we need it. So before we dive into understanding the useState, we need to understand some terms. Which are constant variable, let variable, and state variable. If you remember from the concepts of JavaScript, you might be knowing that for defining a constant variable, we use this simple syntax, which is const a is equal to 0 or something like that. And if we need to define a variable that can be changed somewhere in the code, then we use let a is equal to 0. So as of now, from the JavaScript, we only know two kinds of variables, that is a constant variable and a non-constant variable. Actually, I should basically name it non-constant variable. So we are already familiar with these two kind of variables from the JavaScript. But in React, there is another kind of variable which is called a state variable, and we need to learn more about this third kind of variable. And in order to define this state variable, we use something called useState in React. So to understand all of the things I've written here, let's just go to the code and try to understand what exactly are these. So first of all, I'll inspect and go to my console. So here I will explain what is a constant and non-constant variable. So the constant variable we define with the keyword of const a is equal to 2. This is one of the example. And a non-constant variable I can define by using a term which is let b is equal to 1. So I'm just using these examples. Now what is the difference between the const and the let variable? In the const variable, that variable is constant. Even if I try to run a command something like this, a is equal to 3, so it will give me an error. I'm trying to make an assignment to the constant variable, which is not allowed because the variable is constant. We cannot make any changes to it at any stage in the code. So if I go back and check a, it is still 2. But what if I do the same thing on the variable which is non-constant, which we have defined using a let statement? So let me change the value of b to 3. This time it doesn't give me any kind of error. The value of b was 1 before, and now it has been changed to 3. If I check b, it is 3. So this is something which is not the purpose of this video, but I'm explaining all these kind of variables because we need to have understanding on all this to understand better about the useState in React. So now I have explained two kind of variables, constant and non-constant variable. But to define something called state variable, we need to go into little bit more React code. So here is my simple create React app, which is running on my local host 3000. So to get started, I've just written a simple HTML and some CSS to make it look like this. There are two buttons here which are doing nothing for now because it's just a simple HTML. I have added a button here and a button here and one div where I'm just putting 0 as a value. So this is a simple HTML and CSS. I have made it. Now what I want to do is we will start building on this code, and along the way we will understand why do we need the state variables in React and how to define them. So as of now, this buttons are doing nothing, but what I want these buttons to do is that when I click on plus, this value should increase, and when I click on minus, this value should be decreasing. So for that, first of all, I'll be creating a code, and we will see along the way why do we need the state variables in React and how they help in achieving these kind of results. So let me inspect this and also keep the console open to check for any errors. So okay, I'll start writing the code here. So what I want is that when I click on this plus button, this value should increase. So as of now in my div there is a value which is 0. So for this, what I'll do, I'll define one variable, let count is equal to 0, and I will replace this 0 with the count. Now if I save my code, we won't see any changes here because I've just changed that, put that 0 value into a non-constant variable. Now what I want to do is when I click on this button, this count should increase by 1. If I click on this minus button, this count should decrease by 1. So for that, if you remember from the concepts of HTML and basic JavaScript, we need to define on-click functions. So what I want to say is on-click, I want to do something on-click. What I will do is, one thing I want to do is I want to increase the count to 1. Count is equal to count plus 1. And also I need to console log count. So I've defined on click here. So let's save this and test it. So if I click on this, we can see in the console that count is 1, count is 2. If I keep increasing it, the value keeps going by up by 1. So same thing we need to do for the minus. As of now, the minus button is doing nothing at all. So again, I will go and define the on click function here. So if I put on click here, so here what will happen is, it's a very similar to what we have done here, but only thing is this time we will be doing count is equal to count minus 1, and we'll be logging the count value in the console. So if I save it, I need to test it again. So if I increase, it goes up by 1, 2, 3. If I decrease, it becomes again 2, 1, 0, minus 1. So if I click on this, the value increases by 1. If I click on this, value decreases by 1. That's what we can see in the console here. So we have achieved what we wanted to achieve with this. Now the thing is that here in this div, I am displaying the value of the count here. But the thing is, when I try to increase the value is increasing, and the value is decreasing, but I can't see any changes on my website. It is still 0 here, even though the value of the count is changing. We can see it from the console. The value is changing, but here the value is not changing. This value should change because we are displaying the value of count in between this div. But as we can clearly see, this is not changing. Now why is it not changing here? It's not changing because when the value of the count increases, this page need to refresh again to reflect these changes on the screen here, but it's not doing that. So for this kind of functionality, we need the state variables in React. As of now, we have defined the count as a normal JavaScript way of defining a non-constant variable. Now what we will do is, but we can't achieve that kind of result with the normal variables here. So this is the reason we need a state variables in React to achieve the changes that we are doing in the variable. These changes should be reflected on the screen. So to achieve that, what we will do is we will change this variable to a state variable, and we will also see how to define the state variable. So first thing, we need to import some things before changing this variable to state variable, because if we don't change this variable to state variable, we won't be able to see the changes here. When we click on plus or we click on minus, the changes are happening in the console, but we won't be able to see the changes here. So to achieve that, we need to change this variable to a state variable, not just a normal JavaScript way of non-constant variable. So to achieve that, we will be importing some things. Import react, use state from React. So now I'll be deleting this line because I need to change this to a state variable, and we will be looking how to write the syntax to define the state variable. So the syntax for defining the state variable is something like this: count comma set count equal to useState 0. So now my count variable has become a state variable by changing the line that we have written earlier was like this, that count is equal to 0. But for now I am going to comment this line because we need the count as a state variable, not as a simple variable. So now we need to understand what this syntax exactly means. So this syntax, what it means is that count, the default value of the count is 0. If I put 1 here, the default value of the count will be 1, but I need to keep it 0 for now, the default value. And what is this set count? Set count is basically a function which, by using which I will be able to change the default value of the count. So if I run something like this, set count to 1, by default the value of the count is 0, but now the value of the count will become 1. If I say set count to 2, so the value of the count becomes 2. So this is a variable for which the value is 0, and this is a function by using which we can change the value of this variable to anything we want. So by using this syntax. So we'll be doing the same thing. So since we have changed the count to the state variable, we will be making some changes in here in on-click functions. So as of now, what we were doing was on-click, when the button is clicked, we do count is equal to count plus 1. But this time we will be using the another syntax, set count to count plus 1. And what I'll do is I'll console log the count here. And same change we need to do in the another button, and here we will say count is equal to count, set count to count minus 1. And since we have console log the count here, we don't want to do it here. So all we have done here is, the entire code is same. All we have done here is we have changed this variable from normal to the state variable by importing the useState from React. Now what is a benefit? I have already explained it. Without the defining it as a state variable, we will be able to make changes to the variable, but we won't see any changes on the screen. So now I have already changed it, so let's save it and see whether our goal is achieved or no. So after saving this, I'll just refresh all again, and if I click on plus, now you can see in the console the value is 1, and here also the value is 1. So the changes are happening in the console, the changes are happening in the on the screen as well. And if we click on minus, the changes are happening in the console and here also. So this is the concept of the state variables, and now you might have understood why do we need state variables in React and how do we define it. So this syntax is initially little bit tough to understand, but if you think about it, it's really easy. It's nothing but the count. It's setting the count value to 0, and it also is providing us a function by which we will be able to change the value of the count to anything we want. So I hope you understood the concept of useState and the state variables, and main thing is you might have also understood why do we need this state variables in React. So this was basically the purpose of this video, and I hope you liked it. Keep watching this channel to have more understanding, deeper understanding on the concepts of React. I'll be posting some more videos on the different terminologies that we use in React. For example, you might have heard use effect. So as of now, we already understood what is use state, and in the future video I'll be also be posting what exactly is use effect and why do we need it. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.